All right now. Can any of y'all hear me? Have you been able to hear me before? Hit a one for me if you were able to hear anything I just said. And if you haven't been able to hear anything I've just said, you can hit a two. So did you hear anything I just said? Okay. So Jerome wasn't able to hear anything I just said. Okay. Bullet Tooth Tone was good. Ardell was gone. Big James Orenthal James was happening, was cracking. So anyway, like I said, okay, yeah, okay, good, good. So I see already. So my man Adam Williams says nobody likes Pookie and Ray Ray. They don't even like themselves. But anyway, like I said, I left a link. What I left is a link just in case any of y'all want to get in on this because I believe I'm about to get some pushback. But I don't care. Okay. I really actually don't care. And I'm going to set up the context in which all of this became an issue to begin with because my argument is going to be this. Most black men don't like Pookie and Ray Ray because they have trouble with women. And Pookie and Ray Ray don't. Pookie and Ray Ray get the pick of the women. Pookie and Ray Ray get the pick of the litter. I love Pookie and Ray Ray because they come from the same place I do. I care about black men all across the board. That's how I feel about black men or black boys, black males. Ultimately, I was in a conversation the other day with a good friend, Marcus Aurelius, also known as Keep It 100. And I understand the argument that Marcus Aurelius was making. His argument is the following: Black women are attracted to a particular type of man in the black community, thugs, or more casually, Pookie and Ray Ray. And these men are violent. Some of them, there are a group of men who put on the veneer of being like a Pookie and Ray Ray, but they're not really like that. But some men act like thugs or they adorn themselves to look like thugs because that's what women are attracted to. And so, therefore, every now and then, a woman gets killed or hurt by such a man, after which they then go on to blame the entirety of the demographic of black men for the moral shortcomings or the pathology or the bad values of a small subgroup of men. So his argument was, don't blame it on us, blame it on the men you like, blame it on the men you date. That's what you need to do. Don't blame it on all of us, blame it on those black men. Don't blame it on us. So that's what I basically was getting to, right? Trying to see if there were any holes in this kind of reasoning and what were the implications that lay embedded in the claim that there actually are a group of men who are homicidal in our community, and then they enact that same kind of homicidal rage on black women. So is there a propensity for men who are violent towards other men to turn around and then to enact violence on women? It just makes sense, doesn't it? If you got someone who's violent with men, then they would quite naturally be violent with women. right? And then there's the other argument that black women are out procreating with Pookies and Ray Rays, after which they find out that these are the wrong type of men to be procreating with. And then they find out that what they were attracted to, they shouldn't have been attracted to. They actually should be getting with you guys. You know, you're more respectable guys. You more gentlemanly guys. You more upscale guys. I guess in the Kevin Samuel sense, you know, you high value guys. They don't like the high value men. They just like gutter men. They like low character men. Now, here's the deal. The reason I don't like arguments that stereotype and that typecast a group of black men, even if you want to call them pathological, whatever you want to call them, inferior, violent, morally depraved, how is it that you can carve yourself off apart from those guys? I want to know how it is possible, and I'll leave the link again. If any of you care to come in and explain it, you don't have to explain it on chat. You can just join right in. You can join right in. Come on right in. Because what I want to do is make the case that what you're saying when you really actually refer to a Pookie and a Ray Ray, how is it different than a white man talking about how black people are pathological? What's the difference? What's the difference? Our topic today is most black men don't like Pookie and Ray Ray because they got trouble with women. They sit and they talk about black men and black women, and they make all of these assumptions about what black women prefer, who they like to date. They like to date Pookies and Ray Rays, not them. He said, ain't no difference if it's the truth. Okay, we got a guy named Alonzo Hall. He wants to be added to the stream. Alonzo Hall, you're now added to the stream. What's going on?
What's going on, brother? How you?
I'm doing good.
Great watching you. Love your work. I actually wanted to chime in on this topic because I feel the opposite in terms of having a problem with Pookie and Ray Ray.
Okay, go ahead, man. Speak your piece, man. I want to hear what you have to say about this because before you make your comment, okay, the only thing I have a problem with is that it sounds racist to me, and I think that anytime you get anti-black racism from any quarter, it can even come from black people, right? So anytime I see that kind of behavior or see that kind of disposition or that opinion being expressed, I'm going to challenge it. Go ahead, my brother, Alonzo Hall. Go ahead.
So, just for clarity, the issue with the Pookie and Ray Ray, I see what you mean about it being racist, because we have an issue with Pookie and Ray Ray, but we don't have a problem with, you know, Tamagotchi Yamasuchi, the Yakuza gangster, or the Hell's Angel. So my issue though with Pookie and Ray Ray is, if you look at the hierarchy of these gang structures, of these violent structures, the issue is that most of the time in the black community, we don't have a hierarchy, right? There's no, like, you know, the Crips and the Bloods are the Crips and the Bloods wherever they are. So just because I'm in this gang in the East Coast, if I go to the West Coast, there's a whole different set of rules, a whole different set of bylaws. But if I'm a Hell's Angel, I can go from Kentucky to Kalamazoo and it's all the same. There's also a hierarchy. Whereas Pookie and Ray Ray, just like recently, FBG Duck just got shot. Out of the blue, no hierarchy, no support there. So my upsetness with Pookie and Ray Ray is that as a society, I had to go get tatted up and all this stuff as a youth to attract the girls because they only wanted Pookie and Ray Ray. They don't want the guy in the suit.
Hold on, wait a minute. So you mean you went and got tatted for
I
women?
went and got tatted for women. You got to realize.
Let me slow you up here, okay? I have never done anything in my life personally in order to go out of my way so that I would be alluring to women. And I think that you're right to a certain extent about what you say about the hierarchy of gangs. And here's what you have correct about it, okay? At the current moment, like take, for example, Chicago, right? Or what you see in Indiana, or what you've seen recently in California in relation to the Bloods and the Crips and how they had begun to spread, right? And matriculate into different geographical regions, okay? But what you also have to understand is RICO laws, right? Because at one point in time, Jeff Ford, right? And some of these guys who founded these gangs in Chicago, and even like a Tookie Williams, right? They had an organizational structure, but the organizational structure was disrupted by the federal government with RICO laws. Okay.
Absolutely true.
And the same way that they disrupted the mafia, which they did by means of the same RICO laws, which they used in the 70s. The mafia had begun to become penetrated by governmental organizations in the 70s. They took the same intelligence that they had in disrupting the mafia and using counterinsurgency measures against them that they did with the black gangs, okay? And what they did prior with black nationalist organizations, right? So these people are not stupid, right? These are not dumb people. They know they get the people at the head and then chaos will ensue, okay? So what I would argue is, and what people don't know is that most of the gangs that you see were founded as a response to white gangs.
Yeah.
Who used to beat up and terrorize black boys and
yes.
We're going to found our own gangs. And when they were initially founded, most of them were predicated or based upon the same kind of principles as black nationalism, right?
Right.
But when they began to arrest the leaders of these gangs, then you get ensuing chaos, okay? So there is a problem right now, okay? There is a problem with black gang culture right now, especially when it's not hierarchically arranged such that there's a protocol and a way to punish, right? And a way to circumscribe the members' actions. Because now it's just a free-for-all. These aren't really gangs anymore. It's just a bunch of people claiming a set and they're behaving wantonly. There's no infrastructure, okay? But go ahead. I want to hear what you further have to say.
So I guess this would actually harken back to a lot of what you had a discussion with Keep It 100 recently. And the thing about that is where I'm saying that the issue with Pookie and Ray Ray is now the goal is everybody got to look like Pookie and Ray Ray, right? We've already got the issue that a lot of people already automatically, stereotypically say, oh, black people look alike. But now the popularity is, I'll give you an example. My brother and I grew up a little different. We adopted him as a youth. That's a different story. But when he came into my household, right, we both grew up in the hood, he and I. We both grew up, he actually grew up probably even more in the hood than I did. But when we were coming up, like I said, I was tatted up. I was wearing the jeans, the hat, the saggy, the do-rag. He was wearing Gap clothes. Well, according to us, he wasn't black enough because he didn't run around looking like Pookie and Ray Ray. So all the girls that me and all my boys got, the video vixen or the hot chick at the time, wanted us. But now, fast forward a few years later, some of us haven't grown out of being Pookie and Ray Ray. And now at 45 years old, them women ain't trying to hear, hey, I got the most swag on the block. I'm still Pookie and Ray Ray. They're trying to hear, hey, I can go to Pookie and Ray Ray, but I have some things as a grown man on the table that I'm protecting, that I'm taking care of, that I'm establishing, and I'm nation building by showing those behind me how to come up.
Okay. That just makes sense because we're talking about, let's just face it, Pookie and Ray Ray are from the ages of 15, more than likely, and 25.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You're talking about young men, young black men, from the ages of 15 to 25. Sometimes the age is a little older because some men mature later than others, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about somewhere around the early 30s or the mid 30s,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Now, the one thing I want to impress upon you or anyone else is that
Damn, my engine fucked up.
a woman, in terms of her emotional development and her brain development, a woman matures faster than a man. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Biologically. I'm talking about the prefrontal cortex, the prefrontal lobe in terms of your brain.
Yes.
Men don't reach maturity until the age of somewhere around 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes even later than that.
Mm-hmm.
So it behooves me to defend these young black males because they're boys.
Right.
But it's nothing sadder to me than to see a 40-year-old man trying to behave in the manner of someone who doesn't even have their brain fully developed. That's regressive.
Right.
Now, my problem is, the only problem I had with the argument that Marcus was making, because whether you believe it or not, it has to some degree, depend upon the notion that there is a pathological group of black men.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question is, what is the cause? What is the etiology of the dysfunction of these groups of persons? What is the cause of it? What is the reason?
That's a
Now,
good question.
we just talked about one reason, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Especially as it pertains to gang culture. We
Mm-hmm.
said that the gangs used to have a hierarchical structure until the heads of those gangs were incarcerated, which then left chaos ensuing. So now you got an organization or a group of guys, and they have no one to lead them. And people who could have been natural leaders stepping up, they didn't have the knack. They didn't really have the kind of charisma, because it takes a lot to develop an organization to begin with.
This is true.
Leaders just don't pop up any and everywhere. The people who are leaders are unique, okay? Mm-hmm. So it takes a very charismatic, a strong-willed, and a very intelligent individual to lead another group of men.
True.
Okay? And Lowkey says they were still tearing down the community. Look, we got to come with facts.
Well, that's true. They will still.
You know what I'm saying? So what I don't like to do is make a whole host of assumptions about black men, criminality, who is destroying the community, who didn't. Let me tell you something. One thing I know about the human species is that humans are going to commit crime.
That's a fact. But I think when he says they're going to tear down the community, you're looking at it from a stance of what this system is. This system is like, there's no such thing as black on black crime. That's proximity, right? Okay. But in this system that we are in, it's you have a dichotomy where we're looking at, we don't own anything, which is why we destroy stuff up, which is why the people outside say, hey, you're destroying stuff up, right? Like, look at the riots. Target really didn't care that people were, breaking the windows and everything. You know who cared? State Farm, because State Farm had to write a check to Target, right? So that's who cared. So it's the same thing in our community. But like you said, it takes someone who's willing to lead those men. So if we know that from 15 to 25, right, these men aren't men, they're still boys mentally, then we know at 40, it takes someone to come out and be dynamic. Then why aren't our 40-year-olds coming down and speaking to these 15-year-olds? Now, I know it's fear being knocked over, because when I was 22, I wasn't trying to listen to you at 40. I wasn't trying to listen to this man when he was 40. You know, it just is what it is.
Alonzo, therein lies the problem. You just hit it. This is where I'm going with this. Okay?
Oh, shit. Okay.
This is where I'm going with this, Alonzo. So you mean to tell me, how can you have a group of men who are afraid of boys and who cannot get to and reach and influence and have an impact on boys?
That's the problem.
At what point did black men become so impotent? At what point did black men become so weak, so lacking in backbone, so lacking in resolve, so inept over their capacity to control their own? At what point did black men have the lack of manhood to be able to instill manhood to their posterity? And I'm not just talking about their children, their own sons. I'm talking about men collectively. We are AWOL when it comes to these boys. Pookie and Ray Ray just aren't born out of the womb. They're socialized into who they are. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because there are black people born everywhere throughout these Americas. Brazil, Mexico, right? Cuba, they're everywhere. France, in Europe also. They're born in Africa, black men.
Right.
And they don't have the same value system. And they don't have the same kind of social issues to tackle and to deal with. And we're not leading. See, this is the thing. We can sit here and blame all this shit on black women too. It's an easy target. Because right now, black women are essentially, especially black feminists, they're saying the same thing that I hear a lot of black men right now in the manosphere saying. That there's a contingency, a group of pathological black boys. We need to just fucking put them in prison or kill them. I'm hearing this. Like, I'm literally hearing this. Like, we need more prisons to place our boys. We need, hold on, I can't hear you. I can't hear you right now.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. That's because we're afraid. As a people, like you said, and where that came from, a lot of that isn't our own fault. A lot of that is, like you said, the systems like RICO, Jim Crow, you know, stripping us, ripping us apart like Levi's jeans, etc. But I want to actually address one of the comments. Adam Williams was saying, you know, Pookie and Ray Ray are jealous of, you know, hardworking black men. And I can't say that they are or they aren't. I understand the jealousy because we are in a position that they can't get into. But if you look at a lot of Pookie and Ray Rays are able to actually run conglomerates, right? Because it takes a lot of skill and talent to, you know, be a cocaine salesman and be successful at that. And then to have, you know, people under you doing that, it takes a lot of skill and tact. What then ends up happening is, like, prime example, myself, I do insurance, I do real estate, I do tax prep, I do credit repair, I do a lot of different things, right? All for myself. I work for myself. Because coming from Pookie and Ray Ray, I realized I don't want to work for anyone. So I try to go out and teach these young boys, hey, listen, why don't you start selling insurance? It's just like the trap. I get up every day and decide I don't want to go in the office. Guess what? I don't. The last 3 months ago, I was on a bus on the way to Atlantic City, and my Google Calendar popped up because my assistant scheduled 3 appointments for me while I'm going to gamble. But these young men will rather be in the street because the gang culture is glorified in our community, because the gang culture is glorified in the world, but we are glorified as the thugs, right? The low level. Because if you look at the rest of the planet, just like the movie that you recommended, if you look at a gangster everywhere else, it's someone in a business suit. If you look at a gangster in Black America, it's somebody with a hat back, some gold chains, and maybe a Mercedes Benz.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you there, but this is what I'll say. Initially, and you can go look at that movie, right? It's called Bastards of the Party. Okay. And the movie is, I think it's moderated, or the main narrator of the movie is a guy named Bone Sloan. Okay. And I got another guest that's about to come in. He's going to chime in here. And I don't know if he's going to disparage black boys or not, but I'm going to defend black boys. Okay. But like in LA, at least, these guys were wearing the garb of the Black Panthers because that's who they emulated. That's who they looked up to. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the question is, how can that positive energy have been taken and twisted and contorted and turned back on itself, such that now you have boys who are a problem? Because most of the guys who...
Hey, you cut out a little bit.
You didn't hear me?
No, you cut out a little bit.
Okay, let me go back. Okay, so most of the younger guys who grew older, who became 35, 40, they had begun to have a new outlook, right?
Right.
But once things get out of control, who's there to get it back into control? And please, like, look, this is the main thing. And then I'm gonna have to put you on pause for a minute because I do want to get to Joe and I don't want to leave him hanging, okay? Leave him in limbo. All right. But my viewpoint on it is this. Black men have no institutions. This is what separates us from Jews, from Asians, right? And for other, from white people, definitely. We have no rituals, we have no institutions, and we have no laws that we rally around, that we created, that circumscribe the actions of the members of our community. You know who does it for us?
The white people.
White people. You can't have no law. And the only law, you know what? There's a guy named Frantz Fanon. He wrote a book called Black Skin, White Masks. I don't know if you ever heard of this book, okay? Or you ever heard of this thinker. But he's living in a colonial society, and he's thinking, and it's a French colony, okay? Haiti, Saint Domingue, okay? And he's talking about the ways in which the colonization imprints itself upon the minds of black men. So black skin, white mask ultimately puts forth the notion that black men, we're no different than white men in the way we think. We use their language. We operate by their principles. We observe their holidays. We even use their institutions to circumscribe our actions.
Very true.
What do we have that's indigenous and authentic to us, for us, by us, in relation to rituals, institutions, right? And cultural norms that can circumscribe and usher in youth into what we want them to be? We don't have it. And that's our moral failing. We're failing these boys.
So how do we...
You know what? White people are not going to come along and help us out in this endeavor. They want to see us scattered. They want to see us not be able to make tractable the problems that we have in our community. Exactly. They want to build more prisons and profit from us.
Exactly.
So let me put you on hold, though. I got to let Joe come in, okay? I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to keep you suspended. Or unless you want to just depart right now.
No, I'll come back.
Okay, so let me get Joe in, okay?
No doubt.
All right, I'm going to put you on pause for a second. Brother Joe, how you doing, man? I'm adding you to the stream.
What's going on with you, Mr. Green? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, my brother? How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Well, something I wanted to say about this conversation is this something that get like misconstrued a lot. Like, cause I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't like dudes like that either. But this is my thing. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. We like the second or third most violent city in the country or whatever it is. Now check this out. This is the thing. The reason I don't like them is because when I was growing up, like, I was in the, football and basketball and stuff like that. Whenever I would go to the gym, who I had to pass standing outside there bothering people for no reason? Them type of dudes. Now, this is my thing. The only reason that they even talked about in the first place is because they do what I call performing hyper aggressive things. Like when you go somewhere, like I'm gonna be honest with you, I grew up in the hood, so I have hood tendencies too, I guess you could say. Like I wear backwards hats and tank tops and stuff like that. But I don't go around just like, oh, I'm toting guns. And you know what I mean? It's the
what part of St. Louis you from, bro?
Do you know where Natural Bridge and Kings Highway is?
I do. I know Shreve, right over there. All that, man. I know Shreve. Fair. I'm from Kossuth and Fair, bro.
Man,
that's where I'm from.
Hey,
so I'm from the hood. You know where I'm from, right?
Yes, sir.
And you know where I'm from is hood as hell, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I didn't even name myself the G with a PhD. A woman named me that. A radio personality named me that.
Man,
her name's Stacey Static. You heard of her, right?
Yes, sir. Oh, 104.1. I'm telling you.
She named me G with a PhD because she knows where I'm from. She knows my background. Okay.
That's crazy.
Now let me say this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that there's not a problem in the Black community. Okay. But what I'm trying to reach is a way to resolve the problems. And one thing I know, and that I'm operating with as an assumption, is that this problem is not going to be rectified or resolved by means of us basically typecasting and stigmatizing a certain group or a demographic, saying that they're culturally, morally, or pathological, psychologically, and then the problem is just going to go away. So what we need more police, we need more prisons so we can lock up people who look like us, or do we need older men to come in and to put some order to this chaos? Because I'm gonna tell you, nobody's gonna come and do it for us. Okay?
But this is the thing, Mr. Green, because I'm 21, so I look at it like this. Like I got little brothers and stuff. Like at a certain point in time, like even based on like what growing up and seeing what I've seen, at a certain point in time, you have to cut off the extra fat of the meat. Like I understand like what you're saying about how the OGs should come in and talk and stuff like this, but this is my thing. It's only so much talking you can do. Some people just made to be failures, and I love my people, and you know what I mean. I want to see us do better too, but it's just like you got dudes who main goal is to just wake up and just cause trouble and chaos. You know what I mean? Like check this out. So when this was my freshman year of college or whatever. Now I told you we in the trenches. When I told my homeboys I was going to school and stuff like this, first thing came out their mouth, oh nigga, you trying to be something? You think you think you too better than us and all that stuff? And I'm just telling them like, man, I'm trying to figure out a way up out of here with them. And I just noticed like cause I got me a little e-commerce store with them. When I start like getting a little extra money in my pocket, like when I go to the gas station or to the store and stuff, you just see how some of these dudes just look at you like they want to, you know what I'm saying, want to take you out. And you just think like, damn, I'm young, you know what I'm saying, starting to get some money. It's just like y'all still outside the corner stores and the gas stations bumming it up. But when I come, y'all got the nerve to look at me sideways. And it's the thing. It'd be 2 or 3 of them, they'll look but won't never say nothing. You know what I mean? And it's just like you so busy worried about me and what I'm doing. You ain't trying to do nothing productive yourself. And people like that, I hate to say it, they gotta be excluded from the community. Like
okay, so look, I get what you're saying. I understand exactly what it is you're discussing and what you're talking about. You know, like the liquor store M&A.
Right there on damn, what street is that on?
Redbud and Natural Bridge.
Yeah.
Right across from the old Veterans Village, you got a Chinaman, you got a car wash, or like a little automotive shop
on
the same street, on the same, like if you facing M&A is to your right. Then you got Buffet Rose Car Wash all the way on Fair. Then you got a Chinaman in between it. Know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, right there on that's a little bit past St. Louis Avenue, right?
Correct. So I know what it's like to go to the liquor store and to see all these guys standing out there panhandling, selling weed, or doing something one could traditionally say they ain't supposed to be doing. Right?
Yes, sir.
Now, this is what I will tell you, bro. I know a lot of those little young guys that hang out there. Okay? And some older guys who hang out there. Who at one time they had ambitions, they had dreams, they had goals, and they didn't succeed. And so now they're operating with an underground economy because they can't fit into the culture. They don't know how to fit into society. They don't know how to
now,
fit
Mr.
in.
Gray, let me ask you this. Is it that they can't fit in or they don't want to fit in because of the image of the portrait? Because you got now we got to be honest here. You got a lot of brothers, like when you start talking about education and being productive, they get into that talk about how they don't want to do that or they don't want to act a certain type of way. You know what I mean? Like you got a lot of brothers like that too. They don't want to do nothing productive because of the way they'll be perceived as.
You know what? I think that's true. And I think that we need, like, all I'm saying, young man, Joe, you're 21 years old, man, and I like the way you think. I think that, you got a bright future ahead of you, and I want you to be successful, and I want you to follow your dreams. You understand what I'm saying? I want you to be that guy who, first of all, you're from Northside St. Louis, so you know how dangerous it can be, and you know how deprived and how dilapidated the community is. You know it. You know there's bandos everywhere, okay?
Yeah.
You know that there's this underground community or like an underground culture that exists there. And you're able to sidestep it because you have intelligence, okay? And you're able to fit in and integrate to some degree with these white folks, okay? But be aware. I just want you to understand. I'm not telling you to not go out and get your money. I want you to be successful. I want you to thrive. I want you to be burgeoning and bloom arrogantly and get what's out here for you. Okay? I just don't want you to see. This is what I think. Until Black men get a hold of their own community and are able to govern their own affairs, we're going to continue to look at that element. Because let me tell you something, when it comes to punishment, right now, what we want to do is punish these young men.
Not even that. I wouldn't even go so look, this is my thing. Now the young men, like if you 18 and younger, I don't hold nothing against you because like we were just saying, when you grow up and you see certain types of things, like you become a certain type of way. And when your environment teaches you and like encourages you to do negative things, it's like that. Like I'm gonna say a quick story real fast. When I was 14 years old, me and my friend Chris was right there on Couples, and 4 dudes had pulled up on it. It was about 6 o'clock. We had just came from playing basketball with them. Man, do you know all 4 of them dudes got out their car and pointed guns at us? And the only reason we didn't get killed is because the dude said, "Oh no, that ain't them." So I looked at Chris. I'm like, we about to die. As soon as they went to the other house, we hurried up, ran the house. All you heard, blah 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Just shot up the whole house, and they end up killing.
Let me just say this to you, brother. The first time I got into a gunfight, you know how old I was?
What? 12?
I was 21 years old. You know where I was?
Where you was at?
I was in New Orleans, Louisiana. Do you know who tried to kill me?
Who?
Another college-educated Black man.
What?
This culture is not something that just exists in the hood. This culture where we settle our conflict with guns, and let me just say this also. Look, I got this brother here that says he works with inmates and he's using the N-word and all this kind of stuff, and then he's like, "You still a nigga, my dude." And look, at the end of the day, I think he's being productive. Look, we Black, man. And I know all skin folk ain't kinfolk, but we talking about young men. We talking about people your age. You are man, 4 years ago, you were fucking watching cartoons every day, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Right or wrong?
Right.
You were asking your mother for money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we talking about boys, one rung removed from boyhood, trying to figure out how to fit into society. And they don't quite know how to fit in. And quiet as kept, watch what happens to you as you begin to succeed in the world in which you find yourself. I just recently had Dr. Curry on my show. Have you ever heard of him and his work?
Yeah, yes, sir. I follow BGS too. He talk a lot about you guys and the
Do
work
you
y'all do.
know that the more successful a black man becomes, the more depressed he becomes?
Really?
Really? Now, what
Man.
might you think that be correlated with? The more successful, the more wealthy, the more accomplished you become, the more prone you are to the same kind of dysfunction as all other black men. And let me tell you something. When these guys
Mm-hmm.
don't respect themselves and they engage in this behavior, it's because they're depressed, man. And they're trying to find a way to subsist, or they're doing what they think is cool. Okay?
You right. You right.
We have to find a way to make that not cool anymore and to get these guys alternatives. See, I'm not going to sit here and pathologize these young boys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit here. These are boys, man. You a boy. I'm not saying you're a boy. You're a man. You're 21, right? So I understand you are matriculating into manhood, but you are not yet quite a man yet on your own yet. You are going out into the world trying to figure it out, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I would not hold you to the same standards as a 40-year-old man. I would say you have some learning to do, and I can give you and impart some wisdom to you. I want you to be successful, and I'm glad you were able to not get ensnared by the traps that exist in that community, because I know that they're out there, and I know that they're out there, brother.
And can I tell you what it was that made me realize that, Mr. Green? Like when you growing up and you actually seeing dudes you went to school with that looked out for you. Just you heard them on the news, like my friend Shannon got killed right there in front of that Peter Guns market. I mean that bar. Man, he got killed at 9 o'clock in the morning. Dude looked out for me in school, and it was just like growing up, I realized like I seen what's happening to them. I don't want that for me. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I do understand what you mean. And you know what? Let me tell you something. There is a period of time in a young man's life where he needs guidance and mentorship from older black men in the community. And
yes,
what
sir.
I see us doing is that critical period of time between the age of 15 to about 30 years old. There needs to be mentorship to usher in. You see, in older tribal cultures, there were rites of passage. You couldn't be a man until you went through the ritual to be inducted into what actually a man is supposed to be, whether that be a warrior, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because all men, I mean, like if you're talking about indigenous Africa, right, and where we come from, which is where we mostly come from, okay? There were ceremonies, just like Greek fraternal organizations have or Masonic organizations have, that you go through rituals and you learn certain elements of signs and symbols which induct you into manhood. Unfortunately, we don't have those. We haven't created those.
You right.
And we're just left all alone trying to figure how to make it become possible. I want all of us to grow. I don't want anybody to be left behind. I know some people have to be left behind, but I don't want to see any of us left behind.
Mm-hmm.
We got Fast Attack. He says, no. Look, all I'm trying to say, Fast Attack, is this. And then look, let me put you on pause and bring Alon. Any of y'all can join me if you want. I'm going to put you on pause, Joe, okay?
All right. All right.
I'm going to bring you back, Alonzo. But every stage of formative development is necessary and important. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm talking about waywardness, Because you'll be fought. Homicide is not being committed by boys under the age of 15. You get what I'm saying? Boys under the age of 15 are not toting guns, going around killing people. The guys who are going around killing people are at the ages of between 15 to 35.
See, but what I see what Fast Attack is saying, right? And the issue again becomes that at 40, we're scared to go talk to that 15-year-old because we know he's toting guns. So what we need, I think what he's saying is we need to get them before they hit 15 so that by the time they're 15, toting guns ain't in their minds. So if an OG comes down and speaks to them, we don't have to become Pookie to them. You see what I'm saying? Like I started selling life insurance because 2008, 3 days before Mother's Day, I got shot 5 times in front of my mother. Man. I was out.
And this now I know why this is of significance to you. And I respect you, brother. I respect you, man. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. And I'm sorry you went through that ordeal, brother. I really am, man. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. That's all good. It happens, you know what I mean? But this is what, you know, it's the life I signed up for because I was trying to be 50 Cent. I ended up being 25 Cent because I only got shot 5 times.
I get it. You know, self-deprecating humor in order to deal with your tragedy. I get it.
Exactly. But the reality of the situation is, had I had some guidance before I reached that age, because I was like 22, almost 24. I was like 23, almost 24 at the time. But had I had some guidance younger than that, I probably wouldn't even went that route to mess with that stuff. You know what I mean? So catching them when they're younger kind of makes more sense.
To Fast Attack, and I'm willing to consent. But the only thing I'm worried about is this. I'm going to tell you, if I had it to do, let me tell you what I would do. If I had the wherewithal to do it, I would take all of these black boys and send them to boarding school. He says the sound is on. Can you hear me? You can hear me, right? If you all out there are able to hear me,
I can hear you.
Please put a 1 in the comment section. If you can't hear me, put a 2 in the section. Look, I want this to be heard. Okay.
So I see a bunch of ones so far.
I'm not on YouTube. I'm just strictly on. I'm strictly on StreamYard. Okay.
Yeah. I just see a bunch of them. Herb Saint says it's delayed.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry that it's delayed. I'm turning off. Because I did have a page on YouTube open, so I've since turned that off. Okay, I think that mentorship is important at every stage of Black boys' development. Okay, I think at every stage, but I think initially, I mean, from like maybe 1 to 5. Huh?
I said they can't hear me.
Oh, they can't hear you?
Yeah. That's what he just said. I hear me.
Try it again. Let's see. Can you hear him?
I can hear me. I'm on YouTube.
Yeah, I heard both of you.
Okay, cool. So I got all of y'all up now. Okay, so all I'm trying to put forth, especially in relation to the demographic that is killing, because you're not really going to be able to, you're right on this Fast Attack. I think you're right. But you're not going to be able to superimpose any value system on a group of guys who already have it in their mind that you can't tell them what to do. Okay? But it's up for us. Nobody's going to do this for us. There's nobody from the outside coming in like the cavalry who's going to save us. Okay. White men are not going to do it because they want to see us in a state of disarray. They want to see us fold in on ourselves.
Right.
The other day, I just saw COINTELPRO's program.
Oof.
And what J. Edgar Hoover wanted to do in relation to destroying the chances that there would be a black messiah in our community.
I heard about that.
So you had Elijah Muhammad, who was a prospect.
Right.
You had Martin Luther King Jr., who was a prospect.
Assassinated.
And you had Stokely Carmichael. These were names who were listed by J. Edgar Hoover.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did was they had a plan, a counterintelligence program designed to prevent them from being able to come to fruition as a leader in order to get us to a point where we could begin to manage our own affairs.
I won't cut you off, but in the middle of that, right? For example, we talk about like Stokely Carmichael. Let's look back in the 60s when, and this can maybe be some of where our disconnect is. So let's talk back in the 60s when we wanted to defund SUNY Downstate Medical Facility in Brooklyn, New York, which now was considered one of the best medical facilities in Brooklyn during that period where we were segregated. Fast forward today, for example, when I went to Downstate Hospital and they diagnosed me with diabetes, they told me I had what's called Flatbush diabetes, which is a lot of people in the area of Flatbush, Brooklyn, don't have like good food available to us. But it only happened when a bunch of black people started moving in. So are we saying that we're allowing ourselves to be torn down? Because at some point we have to be like, can we take it back, or do we just depend on the system?
Well, my view on it is it's going to be hard. I'm not saying that this is going to be an easy task to perform. It's going to be a Herculean task to perform. It's going to be an impossible task to perform. The odds are against us. But what other course of action do we have?
You right.
True.
Black women are not going to come save us. I'm telling you why. I'm not even trying to be disparaging to black women. But you have to think, at the current moment, black women are not a threat to white men. They're just not.
Not at
They're
all.
no threat.
Very true.
We are the threat. We are the threat. This is why we are killed most often in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
You think
that could be misogynistic, but I don't want a black woman to save me. You know, we're men, right? And as men, we want the title of boss, king, HNIC, is heavy as the head that wears the crown.
But you can't expect. Yeah, go ahead, brother Joe. Go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
See, now this is something I've been thinking about this for like the past 2 or 3 years now. This is my thing. Even let's say it was a black messiah, society would never, like, I would love to see that, but society would try to do everything that, like you just named the brothers who could have possibly been that. Society is going to continue to try to do everything it can to stop that from happening. But this is my thing. If like you said, Mr. Green, if we come together as a collective unit and it's more than one of us who actually about that and trying to actually do that, there ain't nothing they can do about it. Because it's going to be too many of us at that point in time that's doing it for them to stop it. Because this is my thing. Once a message gets sent to one person, it's going to have a balloon effect and float off to somebody else if everybody keeps spreading that message. So what I think should happen is, because I was telling my friends about this too, the first thing we need to do is preach. Like, we need to preach economics to young black men. Like, the first thing you should do, instead of going to college, go straight to trade school, learn the skills, something that can stick with you for the rest of your life, where you can come out making 40, 50, 60 grand. Like, we got to stop following the society regular norm for, the kids growing up, because what work for them don't work for us. You know what I mean? Especially the way we raised up.
I get you. I have also, I was young. I'm almost 50 years old now. And I'm not going to say that at one point in time, I wasn't involved in some nefarious activity myself, man. I've been jumped in the hood. Like, I don't know what high school you went to. You might have been bused to high school. You might have even gone to like a high school in the area, Beaumont.
U City.
You went to U City, so you were bused to school.
Yeah.
Okay, and I actually went to an all-white high school. This is where my education I went to CBC. You ever heard of that school?
Yeah, Christian Brothers College Preparatory.
Right. So I went when the school was on Clayton Road. My mother wanted to save me from the hood. Okay, she wanted to save me from the hood. But when I went to this school, man, I found out that the white boys there were doing more crazy shit than I ever saw in the hood, man.
And it get overlooked. That's the thing that killed me. Man, look, like you just said about Beaumont and schools like Sumner and stuff like that. I can't remember the name of the school I went to. It was you know how you take the visits or whatever. This is like my, you know, before I started my freshman year or whatever, before I transferred to U City. First day I walked in them doors, you had metal detectors. And I'll never forget when I was at U City, we played against football against a school called Rockwood Summit. We got to their school, they got open facilities, track everywhere, nice pools, and I'm just thinking like, damn, they got stuff we don't even got access to. So we already starting off, you know what I mean, on an uneven playing field. Like,
but you know what? The only thing I know is, man, like there's a poem, man. Out of the night that covers me as black as a pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the failed clutch of circumstance, I've not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeoning of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I'm the master of my faith. I'm the captain of my soul. Either we can capitulate, or either we're going to motivate each other. I love y'all, man. I don't think that any of you all are innately pathological. And I don't think there's anything that we can't fix.
I think you've been speaking that the whole time is fixing it. But I think one of the issues, like, let's address the high school thing, right? Like the school thing in our community. Let's look at that, right? Let's look at some of why. Some of why, again, is we allow ourselves as a people, sometimes, I'm not going to go into politics, but to be duped by certain laws, like you said, Green, there's no laws for us, right? Nobody, anyone, any politician, besides what Lincoln has really put a law into place that positively affected Black people. And we know that Lincoln did not free slaves for the benefit of, or the behest of Black people. He freed the slaves to cripple the Southern economy so that the South wouldn't secede. So let's look at that. In our economies, we don't do things like the census. We're on programs that we allow to be given to us. And yes, let's be frank in saying, as long as Black American females have the political backings to be the sole stewards of Black American boys, you know, the underclass will surely be us. So I understand what he's saying, yes. But again, it's on the men. That's why I said I don't want to sound misogynistic, but I'm tired of, you know, like, yeah, women are this, that, and the third. But fuck all that, dog. We men. We are the
Mr. Hall, it ain't that easy. It ain't that easy.
We wear the crown, bro. We the kings. We run this shit. Everybody else in society, every other society, they men run this shit. We understand that we run the shit. Like you said, we got to go get those trades. They took the trades out of our schools, right? They took music out of our schools. So now, you know, in our neighborhoods, it's not cool to be a cop, because when the white boy comes and sees little Jerome jumping on the car, he thinks it's crazy because he had a baseball diamond in Long Island. But in Flatbush, Brooklyn, we ain't got a baseball diamond. But my cousin, John, who happens to be a police officer in Brooklyn, we hate on him for being a Black cop, but he's doing a couple of things. He lives in the neighborhood. So him being a police officer, he's bringing those tax dollars back to our neighborhood, right? He's not going to some white neighborhood living high over there. He's living here in Brooklyn. And that money, those tax dollars come back to us. And then those tax dollars can be allocated to our school. But if we don't take, I'm sorry for using your name, Jerome, but if we don't take the census and say, look, I know I'm on welfare, but I got 12 kids in this 1-bedroom house. We're scared to lose the welfare, so we don't account for the 12 kids. So now when our kid goes to school, they only get enough money for 1 school lunch instead of 12 school lunches. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
But
So my whole
I
thing
want
is
to say
this.
this too, because I was in when I was at her store, we had like a class discussion about this or whatever, and he you know, my professor was asking like, what are some solutions to like improve the community and stuff like that, and he wanted us to be, you know, as blunt as possible. So
LBJ did do affirmative action, cash NO, but LBJ was for minorities, not for black people. So minorities includes white women and Indians and everything else. Sorry.
we was in class, and I was talking, and it was my turn to speak or whatever, and I told him, I said the first thing we need to start doing as a whole, and I told him, I said, when we choose to have kids, like we got to start being responsible about kids and having kids and stuff like that. I said we all in college. I said we can't use that oh it was a mistake or it just happened. I'm like, we all grown as hell in here. Like we got to start being aware of our decisions and how it could affect like others later on in life. Like I told my girl this a couple weeks ago. I said, when we do decide to have kids or whatever, we gonna make sure we financially stable. Like I don't want to bring my kid into an unsecure home where I got to rely on the government or something like that. You know what I mean? And then you like, we just got to think like, okay, like as the men, like, okay, let's say the women control the kids as far as raising them up in the house, stuff like that. I get. Hold on for 1 second.
Yeah, so let me pick up because I don't want any lulls in the conversation to occur, but I think that, and this is no indictment of black men, but I'm thinking that we're gonna have to start thinking beyond ourselves, and we're gonna have to start allocating time to develop cohorts where we follow a group of young black boys, whether they're born to us or not, as a matter of principle, and mentor those young that young cohort of black boys up to the time they get to at least Joe's age.
Right.
Because this is what we do as black men.
Ardale, this will answer your question about if Tupac was good for black people. You see the AK-47 on my stomach. Sorry.
But what I'm trying to articulate here is this. And I know it's hard out here, man. Like what we do is we go to work and we come home and we get into leisure activities until it's time for us to get back into the cycle again. That's what we do. And I'm not faulting black men for this, okay? But what we're going to have to do is provide mentorship from like the guys who are in sports and stuff like that, like who play little league football, basketball, baseball. They at least come into contact with black men who care about them and who have them organized and who create situations in which discipline can be enforced on them apart from the kind of discipline that they receive from their mothers.
You're right.
And so my viewpoint on it, I don't have all the solutions, okay? But we're going to have to think beyond ourselves, and we're going to have to start allocating more time to our communities. Women are not going to build the community. They got their own little thing going on right now, okay? It's up for us to get our own thing going right now, and not something negative, but something that gives back to these youth. And it can't be part-time. It's got to be ongoing.
But that's the problem. That's
Wait a
the
minute,
problem,
Joe.
Mr. Green.
Let me finish my statement.
All right.
We're going to have to do it. We're going to have to do it. If we don't do it, who's going to do it for us? So my whole thing is the great statesmen who built this nation, and then you can call them slave owners, whatever. One thing they were statesmen. They created a political system. They created a set of institutions with laws that enabled them to punish people who broke the laws that they made. Where are our lawmakers? You saying we don't have the capacity? If we can read and write, and in terms of being afraid of these boys, man, we're going to have to go out there and get them right. See, I don't know if you know this, but there's only 5 approaches to punishment. Did you know that? When it comes to punishment, you have deterrence, incapacitation, retribution, vengeance, or rehabilitation. Okay? Now, what we think is going to happen when we got all of these strong laws that these white boys are imposing on us, tell me, did you think any of the crime is being deterred from all of these harsh and draconian policies that these white boys have in place? Is it stopping
White
guys
boys
from...
don't face these policies. These white boys don't face these rules.
Yeah,
They don't
I can
face
tell you
they
that
get way
being here in
less time for the
Connecticut.
same crime.
They don't face them,
No.
and they don't discourage criminal behavior. They don't do it. Okay? Now we can incapacitate these young black men, meaning we can just lock them up. We can perform retribution on these young black men for what wrong they have done, and I don't have a problem with retribution, right? That means that if you do something, that wrong that you've committed has to be made right. Okay? Now, what is going on amongst these young black boys? They're committing acts of vengeance on one another, or they're preying on one another. And they're solving their conflict by means of vengeance. I want to try to create some measures where we can rehabilitate these young guys, man. Now, I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I'm saying the conversation needs to be had. I love black men and boys, man. I love us. That's it. I'm coming from a spirit of love. I'm not trying to scapegoat, stigmatize in order to make myself look better than other men in the community so I can get some pussy. Sorry. Or look more attractive to the opposite sex.
Right.
Or show or demonstrate I'm better than him. Look, he's a Pookie, but I'm a Chad. You get what I'm saying? I think we got to start thinking. We have to start thinking like statesmen, not politicians, like statesmen, nation builders. We have to start thinking like nation builders. And I don't care what kind of clothing you wear. I don't care what type of. Let me tell you something, man. Let me just give you. This is anecdotal, okay? It's anecdotal, okay? There are a lot of guys that I used to run with who've done more dirt than I ever have imagined. Ever. Busted guns, did all kind of crazy shit, but never got ensnared by the law, okay? Some of these guys are the most productive, intelligent, and family-oriented men that I've ever run across in my life. And they would, if you would have caught them 20 years ago, you would have thought that they would never make it. You would have thought they never would have made it. But now they're productive. They have jobs. One of them is a deputy sheriff. Okay? Black men who weren't fully developed, had mothers and no fathers, left trying to figure it out. Okay? Left trying to figure it all out on their own, but somehow were able to squeeze through the cracks. And later on, when they become more sober-minded as men, they learn, I can't do this anymore. I'm on a path to destruction. I have other people to look out for now. I have children. What is my acting out this persona of a young guy being hood? What is it going to do for my boys? Because I have boys, young boys, right? Or I have young girls. What is that going to do with them? Or how is that going to impact or affect them later on in my life? So all I'm trying to do is create a conversation that doesn't just automatically put forth the notion that black men are innately pathological. There's a group of guys who just can't be rehabilitated. Now, if I'm a sucker for that, I'm a fucking sucker, man. That's what I am then.
Right. So what do we do to change that? Because if I can real quick, I want to touch some of these comments because somebody named Infantry Skills was speaking to you, Mr. Gorilla, and they were saying, decent, productive, career-oriented black men have to distinguish themselves from the Pookies and Ray Rays because the black feminists want to lump us into one big group. And that I disagree with. I think, you know, there really is no way to distinguish ourselves from Pookie and Ray Ray as far as everybody else is concerned, because that's what they want us to be. And I think the problem is that, again, it is a negative, right? Somebody was in here earlier saying, but y'all are the ones making videos. Every Pookie and Ray Ray ain't concerned with y'all. Y'all are concerned with Pookie and Ray Ray. But the problem is because, you know, if I go to Bloomingdale's in a suit and tie to go buy some shit, and, you know, now the woman is gripping her purse because she thinks I'm a Pookie or Ray Ray just wearing a suit, which maybe I am. But, you know, again, Pookie and Ray Ray also started these things, and I can't let we can't let feminism be what holds us down. Basically, if that's the case, then we're not men. I don't give a fuck what the feminist says. I don't want to sound misogynistic, but again, I'm the man. I run shit. So I'm the king. I make the rules. I make the laws. So I have to go out there and pioneer. It's gonna be hard. It's not fair, but heavy is the head that wears the crown. We are the kings. We are the HNICs. We are the boss. We give ourselves those monikers. So we have to come and deal with what comes with that pressure.
But this is my thing. See, what I notice, like a lot of dudes, like what as far as the Pookie conversation goes, I don't like to be lumped in with them either. But it is what it is. See, this is the thing. You got dudes who actually work something and trying to do something with their lives, and the first thing we hear, especially like me, it's just like, oh, black men don't do this. Y'all ain't this. Y'all ain't that. I see it every day I'm on Instagram. You see it. And this is my thing. It pisses me off when I get lumped in with them because I'm actually trying to do something with my life. It's a lot of us trying to do something. Now, this is the thing. I know every dude considered a Pookie or whatever ain't bad. It's just the environment he's born in. But I'm talking if you 20 and up and still on the block trying to act, you know what I'm saying, all the extra stuff, bro, you're a loser. I'm sorry. You're a loser. You choosing to be a loser. Like at some point, look, when I was 15 years old, I knew I didn't want to stand on the corner, not making no, because let's be honest, they ain't making no money like that for real, if we being honest. Like I knew I wanted to do something. Like the dudes are speaking out against that because we don't want to be lumped in with somebody who's not doing nothing productive. Like it's the truth, and we have to be separated. Like I said, I don't want to leave people behind too, but some dudes who, I told you, dudes who wake up just to cause trouble and mess stuff up, they had to be left behind. I want to stop
you right there, Joe. Real quick, right? So yesterday, I do video series about insurance, financial services, taxes, all that shit, just education. Yesterday, I did a video, ironically enough, called Rico, because my niece sent me a YouTube clip of some dudes in Atlanta, some brothers who made $8 million off of drugs. And here's my issue, because I go to the hood when I sell my financial services, right? And I made a video explaining that I have a law in financial services called anti-money laundering. In the year 2002, and like you said, there's no money in the drugs. In the year 2002, the Colombia cocaine cartel hid $80 million of dirty money in life insurance. But when I come to the hood and I talk to a brother about a life insurance policy, it's passé, because we think about the death benefit. We don't think that I could hide $80 million fucking dollars of dirty money in this, or $160 million of dirty money, and get $80 million of clean money back. But nobody's teaching us this. So it takes us as a people to actually come out and teach us this type of stuff. So I wanted to address that because Cash NO was talking about, we'll give them some money. Son, I done went to the hood and talked to niggas about, okay, I smoke weed. I buy about $100 worth of weed a week, right? And when I would go to Grizzly Dent Projects here in Brooklyn and talk to my weed man and say, hey, bro, there's no retirement account. Why don't you put $1,200 a year away in an annuity, which is a retirement account, an IRA? And there's only certain companies that allow you to start with $100 a month. Normally it's $5,000 to pour in. I figured we talk about money since we want to talk about money. But $100 a month. And all these dudes told me, bro, that sounds like something for somebody with a job. Nah, I could flip that money faster, da-da-da-da-da. But that's at 15. Now you 45, you wishing you put that $100 a month away. Right?
Look, let me just say this, man. We can either be a conqueror.
It's only a half ounce, Herb saying.
you can get your ass on this link and say what you got to say, and come on in and say what you got to say. One thing I'm not asking for is consensus, but what I am asking for is respect. I'm not asking. Even the statesmen who founded this nation didn't agree. Hamilton and Jefferson didn't agree. They had a great debate about how the institutions were supposed to be arranged in this country. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's not going to be consensus amongst us.
Yeah.
You never get that. Even within your family, you won't have consensus. In your church, you won't have consensus. In your fraternal organization, you're not going to have consensus. Okay? But we have to be respectful to each other. And let me tell you this. There's another poem I have. When you're up against the trouble, meet it squarely face to face. Lift your chin and set your shoulders, plant your feet and take a brace. When it's vain to try and dodge it, do the best that you can do. You may fail, but you may conquer. See it through. Black may be the clouds about you and your future may seem grim, but do not let your nerve desert you. Keep yourself in fighting trim. If the worst is bound to happen, spite of all that you can do, running from it will not save you. See it through. Even hope may seem but futile when with troubles you're beset. But remember that you're facing just what other men have met. You may fail, but fall still fighting. Don't give up. Whatever you do, eyes front, head high to the finish. See it through. I'm in agreement with you here, Alonzo Hall. Fuck what these women are talking about. Fuck with trying to cape for them or try to follow them. Fuck with the queen ideology. At the end of the day, we already know that feminism is an orientation towards the world that does not consider us. It just doesn't. So if they're not considering us, we have to be autonomous and do for ourselves. So Pookie and Ray Ray are a problem, but how do we manage the problem? At the current moment, we are letting white people manage our problem. We're asking, imagine that shit. We're asking white people to manage our problem with our boys. And it's also, let me tell you something also, it is absolutely wrong and egregious, like you said earlier, Alonzo, to automatically assume, and you also, Joe, I'm not going to disrespect you here though, but to assume that Pookie and Ray Ray are just dim-witted, that they have no intellectual capacity. Like, take, for example, the Rick Ross, not the phony Rick Ross, but the real Rick Ross. Do you think he's some sort of stupid motherfucker?
No, I see, and that's something that
wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute. I'm not done getting my, I'm not done. When I say manage our own boys, I'm meaning they go through the juvie system. That's what I mean when I say manage our black boys. Because we're not managing them. If you got 15 to 25-year-old boys on the corner, on the block, on the streets, and we don't want them there, and what we do is we call the police, that's getting white people to manage our problems. I don't know how else to say it. Now, right now, I'm gonna start getting in my fucking feelings about this shit because it just makes common, but I guess common sense ain't common. I'm talking about we are having white people, white police officers manage our problem. That ain't handling the problem. It's not handling it. We need to, and then another thing we don't do, because we're not statesmen, we don't even control our local politics.
Yeah.
We don't have our own district attorneys. We don't have our own judges. We don't have our own refuse manager. But we are highly concentrated in these cities, and we don't hold these people accountable. They just come, they get voted in, and we never talk to them. We never visit them. We never write them. We never manage or lobby them. We never come together and make them be accountable to us. But they will never be accountable to us if we're only hands off. If we never become statesmen, we're going to have to grow up. I hate to say this. And I know that they're delegitimizing our leadership, but we can't use them anymore as an excuse, because excuses are monuments of nothingness. They build bridges to nowhere. You get what I'm saying? We need a community, and we need to create it.
I want to pause right quick.
Because I'm gonna, but
With a
before you,
PhD, I wish you was here 10 years ago. So go ahead.
but I don't have all the answers, man. But I'm saying we have to think differently. You know what insanity is, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, thinking you're gonna get different results. We've already tried, because I'm gonna tell you what Black people are embroiled in holistically throughout this nation. We are consumers. We go back and forth to work, working for white people. And I mean, some of us do quite well at this, and we create our own middle class or whatever the case may be. Okay? And we don't put effort into our communities. We live in neighborhoods. We don't live in communities.
Yeah.
When I was younger, everybody in my community, like the older people, they knew each other. They went on trips together. They played cards with each other. You know, they had interactions with each other. We don't even do that anymore. Everybody you just give the nod up. What's up, dog? And you go in the house and you don't fuck with these people. That's not a community. That's a neighborhood. We don't even have neighborhood associations.
That's true.
We have to, I think I'm gonna put Herb up right here. We are primarily embroiled in survival, but we have to get out of survival mode and we have to get into thrive mode. And we have to think beyond our condition, because we got to start thinking about 7 generations from now. Where are we going to be? We need our own government within a government. We need our own policies, our own way of interacting with one another. We need to step up and be men. That's what men do everywhere else in the world. And if everybody want to fight against us, let them fight against us. We're going to keep growing. We got to keep growing. We got to be productive. But men are, like you said, we are pioneering. That's what men do. Men are the lawmakers. When throughout history have you not had men that weren't lawmakers? We're the ones that got to do it. Put the PlayStation down for a minute. Link up with some other men. Develop some codes. If there's a problem on your block, all the men come together. Look, I see y'all doing this shit. Let me tell you, we want to introduce you to a way of life that is not involved with all this chicanery. If y'all got some conflict with other guys, let me tell you what we're going to do with y'all. We're going to put y'all ass in the octagon and y'all going to fight, goddammit, until one of your teeth is knocked out. Then after that, we're going to give you some beer and then you're going to get your ass and learn something. We're going to teach you how to read. Are your reading skills up? You understand what I'm saying? Because our kids are suffering from neglect. And it's partially because, think about this, man. A mother, like say you got a 13, 12-year-old boy and his mother goes to work, okay? Effectively, that woman is not really even educating that child herself. She might feed him for 2-3 hours. She ain't gonna spend no real quality time with the boy.
You're right.
Because she don't have time to. She's trying to get herself engaged or geared going back to the hood again. You understand what I'm saying? So that boy is effectively raising himself. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
These kids are raising themselves and they don't have any order, because a boy under 25-year-old, he has no understanding of order. And even you can't even become a representative in the United States until you're 25 years old.
Right.
You got that? You can't become a senator until you're 30 years old. You can't become a president of the United States until what? You're 45, I think?
Me too. Yeah.
Or something like that. I mean, I might have the numbers off. But look, I just love black men, and I hate to hear it talked about disparagingly. I know that, like, sometimes we'll turn our heads and say, those guys don't want shit out of life. But like I said, I know a lot of guys who looked as if they didn't want shit out of life themselves, and eventually they became something. I don't want to give up on us. I don't want to refer to us as some sort of ignorant name to mark us off as the other. I want to try to help us, man. And I think we're in triage. So you got to start with the most vulnerable. Mm-hmm. It's like if you're going to the emergency room and you got a bullet wound and you might have diabetes, you got to treat the bullet wound first. Mm-hmm. Then you can get along with treating the diabetes. Or the guy might have a cavity or some shit, but he's got like a heart attack. You got to fix the heart attack first before you fix the cavity. You know what I'm saying? Or the toothache. What is of the prime importance? Now, I'm not saying there are going to be criminal elements and you got to punish these guys. But I'm saying that there's 5 common approaches to punishment: deterrence, incapacitation, retribution, vengeance, and rehabilitation. I believe that these black boys can be rehabilitated before we just resort to incapacitation off the bat.
Can I touch Adam Williams right quick in the comments? Bro, it's not about the language and the hip hop, right? I used to think about that, but the problem is we can't let the fact that most of this music ain't for the youth, the demographic. Tupac wasn't for me. I'm 36, right? Tupac wasn't for me, but I was listening to that. I ain't have no idea what he was talking about. I listened to it today, and a lot of the shit he says makes sense. For example, like his song "Letter to the President." Dear Mr. President, you gave us all these promises before you got elected. Me and my homies in the hood looking around, and ain't a goddamn thing changed. He did that during the Bush and the Clinton administration. He did the original during the Bush, 92 era Bush, and then he did the remake during the Clinton administration. So, you know, we can't we can't be mad about somebody saying some shit on an entertainment form, because we don't say that when, what's the short guy? Joe Pesci says, "You calling me a Goomba?" Well, you know, that's a slur to Italians, but he's a gangster, so he could say that in his movie because it's entertainment. We have to realize that as adults, we have the distinction. I can tell the difference between entertainment and reality. The youth can't. That's why they're trying to live what they're rapping versus us hearing it. When I bump trap music, going to a client, I know, oh shit, I'm about to get this guy to roll over $1 million from his 401k or whatever it might be. I'm not thinking I'm about to go bust a cat.
Well, let me just say this. In relation to the depiction of violence and thug culture in our community via rap music, I will say this, and I've done a little bit of research on this. I think that, you know, if you're going to try to put a dent in violence in the black community by means of censoring rap or hip hop, then you got to censor comic books because there's violence depicted there. You got to censor it in cartoons. You got to censor it in rated R movies because there's violence depicted there, on television shows. I mean, country music, for crying out loud, is more violent and has a greater depiction of violence than there is in hip hop. If you go look and you do a scan of the words being used and, you know, the imagery being portrayed. So, you know, look.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe, man.
See, now this is my thing. I love what both of y'all are saying, and I get it. I get it. Like, we all grew up in the trenches, but check this out. This is my question. I understand, like, the youth, like 13 and under, 14 and under, not being able to make certain decisions because of the environment you grew up in, you're gonna make the wrong choices and stuff like that. But at what age do we want to start saying, okay, this young man is he been around for 16, 17 years. He knows doing a certain thing is going to have consequences behind it. At what point are we going to say, I get what y'all saying. I want to make it to where we can talk to these young dudes too and get them right before they get old and stuff. But at what point are we going to say, if he chooses to do this, that's on him. We can't keep on trying to, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, I get the young cats. They need to be hard head, make for a soft ass. But if you 17, 18, at what point are we going to say, if you continue to do this, bro, it's on you? We can't keep on, you know what I'm saying, harping on the same thing. I get the youth. They need to be beat over head with the rules and how stuff work in life. But like I'm saying, when you 18, 17, 18, 19, at what point are you going to say, it's on me? I'm choosing to do this. It ain't nobody else's fault but mine. I can go work a regular job, but I'm choosing to be on the block. You know what I'm saying? At some point we got to say it's on them doing that. It ain't how you can't look. This is my thing. If I would have just sat around blaming how I grew up, I'll be in the damn pit somewhere. At some point in time, you got to be the outlier and say, I'm tired of what I'm seeing. I'm tired of living like this. I want to be that change to do something better.
Well, this is what
you
I
can't
will
keep
say.
on feeling sorry for yourself. Or you
Well,
know
this
what
is
I'm
what I
saying?
will. This is what I will say. Even if we do knock youngsters in the head, it's got to be us to give them a chance to right themselves up, not these white boys. It's got to be us to give them a chance to be reintegrated back into the community, not these white boys. It's got to be on our plan because we actually give a shit about them. I know I do. You might not. You might have already written them off, Joe. You're
No,
a young
I
man,
do too,
though.
but it's like at a certain
Wait a
point.
minute, Joe. Wait a minute. All I'm saying is I haven't written them off yet. And I think we're producing them by our lack of involvement. So I'm putting the onus on us, not black women, because I'm tired of talking about them, man. Fuck what they doing. And I know they got them, those are their kids, and they're left in their stewardship for the early portions of their life.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, the onus is on us. If we want to be leaders, if we keep complaining, Cash and O say that's what the prison is for. Well, if you want to just be a white dude, go ahead and be a white dude. But I'm going to tell you one thing you can't do, hit them hard, you can't become a white boy. And they'll put your black ass in prison too.
Mm-hmm.
Quick, fast, in a fucking hurry. And don't believe they won't. Because they sure as fucking hell will. Or they'll kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you was reaching for your phone in your car. And it ain't got shit to do with Pooky and Ray Ray. It's got to do because you's a nigga. Bottom line. So I'm tired of talking about Pookies and Ray Rays too. If you ain't gonna do nothing to fucking manage the situation, because I'm gonna tell you what, if you're a real man and you come home and there's some little fucking hoodlums outside of your door, you're gonna tell them, you're gonna do some shit. You wanna do that shit, you're gonna take it elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You're gonna take that shit elsewhere. You ain't gonna be on front of my porch with that loud ass music going on 2:30 a.m. in the fucking morning. You know what I'm saying? Playing that loud ass shit, disrespecting everybody on the block. Some
Mm-hmm.
people got to go to work. I'm gonna get with your mama and we gonna get this shit straight. But you ain't gonna be doing that. And then they gotta have the support of other men in the community because one man can't do it by himself.
True.
One man cannot do this by himself. So, and anyway, I'm not writing black men off. I'm not. Pookie is a fucking comment. Pookie, there is no Pookie other than in our minds, is what I'm saying.
Mm.
Pookie is a product of the environment. Pookie might even be like, fuck y'all. But I believe every kid is redeemable. Again, as I said, if you don't believe me, I'll show it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me show you. Me as hell. Can y'all see that? Can y'all see this link?
No.
Not
Can't
real.
see the link?
Nope.
Okay, let me see here. Share. Let me see here. Can you see it now?
It's something loading. Yep.
Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
You can't see it.
No. Okay, I see it.
Okay. People's brains don't reach adulthood until age 30, a study finds. Scientists explain our brains don't reach adulthood until our 30s at a new meeting on brain development. Our brains are constantly developing over the span of 3 decades. This means that certain behaviors, like excessive alcohol consumption and so on and so forth, can be particularly damaging where we're young. Now, this is in a men's health magazine. I can tell you that women's brains mature earlier than men's brains do. Okay? But if it's the case that you gotta, this is just based on science. I'm not here to talk about what we need. Because see, what I don't like to do is get into this white boy talk.
Mm.
I don't like the white boy talk. I don't like white boy talk. You want white boys to handle your community? Go live with them motherfuckers. But you know what? They not gonna fuck with you. They not fucking with you. They not gonna let you fuck they daughters and bury these mulatto kids. So a small amount will, but you're not gonna be absorbed into their social body. We've been having a problem with integration for how long?
Forever. since it happened, since it
They
first
don't
happened.
want you, man. If you got rid of Ray Ray and Pookie, they still ain't fucking with you.
And that's what dudes don't want to accept either. Like, people don't realize you got to be a certain type of dude to get a certain type of woman. You can't just say, oh, because this dude act hood, he getting the give. Nah, he getting the give because he got charisma and know how to talk to him. But a lot of dudes who regular don't want to admit that.
So at the end of the day, hey, look, Joe, man, we got to keep in the contact with each other because you're from the same place I am.
Yes,
And
sir.
I think you're a young man. I don't want you to fall into some of the traps that I've fallen into throughout the entirety of my life. But I might agree with some of you guys. I might disagree with some of you guys. But let me just say this, okay? I love all y'all, man. I might not agree with all of y'all, but I'm not going to disrespect you and call you a derisive name and call you out of your name. I might use the word N-word or something like that. But you know how we talk, right? But I love all of y'all, man. I just want us to get better. I want us to improve. And if we are going to cleave off people from our social body, you ever heard of the parable of the wheat and the tares? You ever heard of that?
Nope.
In the Bible, you got the parable of the wheat and the tares, or the wheat and the chaff. How do you separate the wheat from the chaff?
Cut it off.
You don't cut it off initially because it's too hard to cut off when it's growing. You let it grow into maturity, then you bind up the tares, then you separate them, and then you burn them. I have no problem with cutting people off who just refuse to get with the program. But these guys, man, I'm just gonna say this and I'm gonna end this cast. I really appreciate y'all for having at least the gall to get up and to express your viewpoints, because I did leave the link on several occasions. So if anybody wanted to get on here and speak and reason outside of the context of the chat, they had the capacity and the ability to do so. All I want for us is to win. That's it. There's no reason why black men, not men, boys, should be killing each other in the streets at 5 times the rate of white people.
This is true.
True.
There's no reason this should be happening. There's no reason why it should be happening. These people got us in a state of discord. There are a whole bunch of environmental factors that can explain how this developed and how it came to pass. I haven't even offered any of those yet. I can do it, and I will do it at some point. But look, if you can't show me love, show some love to yourself, man. And Brother Alonzo, I want to thank you, man, for joining the cast. And Brother Joe, man, you know, you're a young man, and I think you got your head on straight. And I want to also thank you for joining in the cast. And I
appreciate
want
you too, OG.
And look, I don't have all the answers. I just have a show. I'm not even close to getting all the answers. I'm one man with a finite brain. That's it. Okay? And I'm not expecting consensus amongst each other. I'm not expecting that. But I do at least expect for us to be able to approach the conversation.
And can I ask one more? Can I say one more thing?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, and then we're gonna let your last comment be the one.
All right. Something I don't want people to get misconstrued either. Is like this. This is the thing. I think we all want to come to the same end. We just going different routes for it. Like, cause this is my thing. Like I'm Generation Z or whatever. Some of my generation we seen how hard like the OGs been going like since the 1950s for unity and family and all that type of stuff. And we see that y'all like it's hanging by a thread. You know what I mean? Y'all been fighting for it since day one. And my generation feel like you got a lot of dudes like even when I said cut the guys off who keep having trouble and stuff like that. I didn't mean that to say forget them, throw them to the trash. But what I'm saying is we gotta come up with a solution that's concrete, and like either you can start the behavior out until it's seen like a societal change, like you know what I mean, to where the behavior not even looked at as good. Everybody see it as like if you act like this, we ain't gonna mess with you. Like we all just coming to the same different ways to the same end. But I want the community to prosper too, and I had nothing but love for my brothers, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Well, thank you, Joe. Look. At the end of the day, man, I love all y'all. Again, I don't have all the answers. I got my brother Herb talking about Obama. Let me just say this, and then I'm gonna end this, okay? I am a racial realist. And there's a scholar by the name of Derek Bell. And to him, racial realism is just basically an indication that integration is not going to work.
Ain't that the truth?
And it's not going to work because white people don't want to integrate with us. They never have wanted to integrate with us. And every time that they could have allowed for us to grow and to thrive and to function, they've done everything to stymie our progress.
Like Black Wall Street destroyed it.
Just destroyed it. Even though we didn't have the wherewithal to, I won't say the wherewithal, but even though they didn't give us the respect of paying reparations for having enslaved us after they freed us, we started to build these burgeoning economies. They just blew them up because they didn't want to pay the money back. Because Wall Street had banks. They didn't have to pay none of that money they got. They took land. They appropriated the land. Now you want to talk about violence and Pookie and Ray Ray? We're talking about white boys being the Pookie and Ray Ray of time immemorial.
Pillaging everything.
You want to talk about Pookie and Ray Ray? These are the people who came over here. You want to talk about violence? You want to talk about violence? You really want to have a conversation about violence?
Ain't no comparison.
You want to have a conversation about violence?
Yeah, they are violent. But
there ain't nothing more violent than taking a group of people from one location to the next, putting them in shackles, raping them for 200 plus years, then subjecting them to Jim Crow and lynching for another 150 years, then freeing them, putting them in ghettos, and then brutalizing them with the police. And then you got a group of black men that want to talk about Pookie and Ray Ray and their violence. Man, we got to grow up, ironic? Man. Hey, look, I can't, man, this conversation is getting, it's starting to extend. And I don't want to be on that 4-hour tip. You know what I'm saying? So, because I was on that the last time. And the only reason I was on it was because when it comes to violence, black people, I guarantee you the average black man doesn't know how to manufacture a gun. I guarantee you a black man doesn't have a tank, doesn't have nuclear explosives, doesn't have warcraft, ships, weapons of war. We don't have those. We'll go fight for these motherfuckers and risk our lives, but we won't risk our own lives to get our own shit straight.
Crazy.
So I'm out of here, man. I love y'all, man. Be peaceable. I don't have all the answers. Sometimes I'm wrong. If you hear me rant and rave, it's because I'm passionate about the shit. But I love y'all, man. Be prosperous, be peaceful. One, man. One for y'all, man.